Okay, we are live. I am attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Miss G, Georgette True. Miss G, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. So tonight that we are going to be doing a question and answer, and we want to give a shout out to Maria Cedeño, a new member of
Family.
our family and our YouTube channel. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it. And I welcome you as a new member.
Um,
Okay.
so I wanted to start sharing something with the with people, especially family members. I want you guys to understand that CPS's purpose is to divide you guys apart, so that way the mother doesn't have any support of her family. If the mother doesn't have support of her family, she's not going to fight for the children. She can't fight for the children because she needs financial support and emotional support. That's very important. So what CPS does is they divide the family against itself, meaning they will go to the mother or the brother or the father or the sister and say, your daughter did this and this and that. So automatically they want to put doubt in their head, so that way they make them think the mother is wrong, did something wrong. I had a call, several calls today actually, from parents. One of them was a doctor in California. I'm not going to mention the city, or I mean, the county. And then another one who's a nurse, and another, actually, no, three, and another one who is, I think she works for the Department of Water and Power, something like that. So they all told me the same thing. The social workers are turning our parents against us, our mother against us, our brother against us. They're questioning us, or they're questioning me as a mother, as their child, you know? So don't allow the social workers to put doubt in your head. Don't. Because their focus is to take that child, give the grandmother or the grandfather false hope that they're going to have placement of that child, but they're not going to have placement of the child. If you guys understand how Title 4D funding works, it only works if the child is placed in a non-family member home. So don't doubt your kids, your adult kids who have kids, because you should know how you raise them. And don't divide yourselves, because you guys need to be together as a family, because when you're together as a family, you can't break that bond. No one can. No one can. This is not a friend, this is family. So please make sure you understand the tactics of the demon to divide you guys apart. Another thing, when you guys know that you're great parents, that doesn't mean that you're off the hook with CPS. It doesn't mean that you cooperating with CPS is going to help you. I'll explain to you why. The the lawyer, the free lawyer that you guys get with CPS, the pro bono, those lawyers are trained to force you guys to cooperate with the social workers. They do, even if it's against you. So what they want, because you have to understand, if they don't get money, they're not going to get money. If the county doesn't get money, the state doesn't get money, those attorneys are not going to get paid, because they get paid whether they work on your case or not. If you guys don't understand about Title 4D funding, Google it. Do your research. You don't have to take my word for it, but you need to do your own research, because my goal in life until the day I die is to make sure every parent have their child, you know, because it's not right what they're doing to children and parents. And then when the child is traumatized, they blame it on the mother. That's not right. So let's focus on that, being together as a family and making it work. support each other. That's all I need to say, Vincent.
Well, I think that was a very good point that you brought up about the Title IV-D funding,
Mhm.
that the county, won't get that funding if the child is placed with a relative of the
Mhm.
family.
Mhm.
Sounds weird, doesn't it? In I forget what year it was, but one of the first things Governor Schwarzenegger did was he enlisted the Hoover Commission in California to do a review of child protective services.
Mhm.
And in a very politically correct report, which you can actually find on the internet, California Hoover Commission, the Hoover Commission concluded that the financial incentives of CPS were in the wrong place, that the incentives were placed towards removing children from the home and from families, and that it should be turned around and the incentive should be focused on keeping the families together with their mother and father or with, extended family members. Here's the problem, that it was never implemented because all of these regulations that control the funding are federal based. In other words, your state legislature can't do anything about it. I'll give you an example. I mentioned this the other night on one of the shows. Many years ago, a very famous judge here in California, he happened to be the presiding judge of juvenile dependency courts, the CPS courts in Los Angeles County. He wanted to make hearings public, or a certain amount of public, um, where reporters could come in. Because as you think back on our society, one of the reasons we even have this country is because people fled England and Europe because of the political climate. In other words, one of the things they had were something called star chambers. A star chamber is where you have the judge, jury, and executioner, and there's no public review. There's secret court hearings. Well, one of the things that happens just with human beings is that these CPS cases are all confidential. There's no First Amendment, there's no reporters, there's no news watching and reporting what happens in CPS courts. As a matter of fact, it's illegal. Well, this judge was going to change that, and he actually got the legislature to write a law about it that was going to make these hearings somewhat reviewable and accessible to the press. Well, in their due diligence, they passed this by the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C., who controls all funding. And it's rumored to have been said that DHHS said, "Oh, that's a really nice law. That's a really good thing you're doing. By the way, if you pass the law, you won't receive any more federal funding." Guess what happened to that law? Straight into the trash can. And to this day, CPS hearings remain confidential. It's a crime for me to disclose people's names and what happens in a case. Now, there's something called the First Amendment, and there's something called, freedom of press, blah, 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 blah. But they only apply to what we say they apply to, and they don't apply to CPS cases. Interesting. Tonight we are not going to have any guests. We're going to be doing one of Ms. G's favorite things. We're going to be doing a question and answer session. So go ahead and post your questions and your comments on whatever platform you're watching. I think we're streaming to 8 different social media platforms right now. Post your questions and we'll get together and we'll try to answer them. Okay. I don't know if you saw this comment when you were talking. Hi, Deidre. Oh, there's somebody's favorite fan. Okay, Christy. Christy says, "Do you know any appellate cases in Illinois that might be beneficial to a case in regards to neglect by a mother who was a domestic violence victim, and the court took my children from me?" Christy, I'm sorry, I don't. I think you might be looking for the wrong thing. I can tell you that in California, your child can be taken away from you for that very reason, and the court will make findings and orders based upon whatever factual situation you were in. And that's why, I was talking to people the other night on the show. You basically have to present evidence, witnesses, documents. You have to subpoena them, and you have to put on a trial to show the judge that what the social worker is saying is not accurate. Okay? So if you're looking for a case, Christy, that says they can't do that because you're a domestic violence victim, I would guess if you were in California, you wouldn't find that case. Okay? Deidre says, I have a question. Okay. When I try and terminate the legal guardianship of my two older kids that are with my mom, does my mom get to have a say in the decision making along with the judge? She doesn't have a say, but she has the ability to present evidence, either for you or against you. And rarely do people sometimes remain neutral. Okay, but she's apparently the legal guardian of the kids. She's now a party to whatever happens with respect to those children. I hope over the years, you and your mom are getting along, because when you do this type of thing, or you make that motion, if the guardian is on your side, it's a lot easier. Or will it only be decided by it will be only decided by the judge. However, your mother will be able to present evidence. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Deirdre. Did that seem clear to you, Miss G? Miss G, I think, is muted.
I said, oftentimes the relationship between the mom and the daughter is damaged because of the social workers. They usually lie to the mom and say, your daughter said about you, you know, your daughter did. So what happens is they put a doubt between the mother and the daughter because they want to make sure that there's no connection between them. Because once they're connected, obviously it's going to get stronger, and CPS doesn't want that. That's why I tell you guys often they're demonic. Only a demon wants to separate. God unites, God keeps together, demons separate. The devil always separates because, again, you cannot conquer a group, right? You can conquer solo. You have to choose somebody who's weak, right? So you have to understand the demonic strategy of CPS. That's very important. Don't be naive. Don't be stupid. Don't think you're super mom. You're wonderful mom. Yes, we know you're a great mom. You know you're a great mom. But they want to damage you. They want to break you. Like I told you guys several weeks ago, we have two mothers that actually killed themselves, literally committed suicide. I'm not joking. Committed suicide. One of the mom, her husband is a millionaire. That son of a piece of shit, he's gonna get his karma one day. He took both her daughters from her, and the system was totally supporting him because he has money, all that stuff, and literally destroyed the mother, all because she called the police for domestic violence report, made a domestic violence report. They held her accountable. Her, with the cuts and the bruises and the all that, her, because the father said that she set him up. Where did she get the bruises? Where did she get the beating from? So there's a lot that happens in the system with our government, and all of them are going to meet their creator one day. Whether they believe in God or not, they will meet them. They will. We all will. So, but meanwhile, please don't be gullible to the system and lawyer up. And I had a lady that said to me today that she called an attorney in Orange County area, and he told her it's $26,000 for a local case. But he's a family law attorney, but from that $26,000, he's going to get her a family law attorney. I mean, a juvenile attorney. It doesn't make sense. So why would she pay you the $26,000 to get her a juvenile attorney when you're not a juvenile attorney? It makes no sense. So basically, he wants to share the profit with the other attorney. It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. Do you understand anything I just said, Attorney Davis? I don't understand
I,
this.
I do. I do.
Okay.
I do. And
Is
it's,
that a bad thing, or I don't know? I mean,
yeah, depending on who the attorneys are, but, that's an awful lot of money for a
but
local
that's
case.
local. That's like an
Yeah.
hour away from the court.
Right, right,
That's not traveling like you to Oregon or, Chicago.
right. Here's another question from Christy. The evidence that they held against me was that I didn't get an order of protection. There was a no contact order in place, and I said I wanted marriage counseling, and also I signed intact papers.
In papers.
And
I
then
don't
she
know.
goes on to say, but the next day, his ex wife called and said, my ex was at my house when he wasn't. No
Mm-hmm.
evidence. But because I wanted counseling
Right.
with him, they used it against me.
Right. I spoke to her. I think I spoke to you. Um, yeah, Mr. Davis, what do you have to say about that part? Because they set parents up like that too. They will tell the parent it's okay for counseling, it's okay for visit, as long as the grandmother is there or somebody's watching. But then all of a sudden they change their story around and tell the judge, look, they're doing something that wasn't told. But they set parents up. They set them up deliberately.
Right. I've been telling people a lot at the very beginning, I'm going to give you advice
Mhm,
that you're not going to agree with and it's not going to make sense to you.
mhm,
And mainly because, of them trying to set you up to take a fall, right? So,
mhm.
if you talk to me at the beginning of the case or at the beginning, I'm going to give you certain advice, probably to lay low, not talk to anyone about it so you don't get misquoted, so you don't do something that they're going to use against you. Don't forget, they're actively seeking evidence to use against you. Actively.
But they'll set you up at the same, like, it's not just seeking though. They set them up and then seek, kind of like.
Okay, Deidre says, my husband might have been considered the perpetrator, quote unquote, but for my mother to disown me over not leaving my husband is wrong from so many avenues. Isn't marriage till death do us part? Deidre, I want to tell you something. There's always two ways to do something. There's the easy way, and then there's the hard way. And I'm afraid that trying to change your mother's opinion about your ex-husband or your husband is the really hard way, you know? Now, here's something that I saw someone do. I wouldn't say that I advised this, but I saw this happen. In a similar situation, okay? They broke up with the husband so that the grandmother agreed to give the mother the kids back. Once the mother had the kids back, the mother and father miraculously got back together. Deidre, there's an easy way and a hard way. Which would you rather? Okay. Did you see another question I should be answering, Miss G? Miss G's on mute. I see her mouth moving.
I'm so sorry for that. Okay, so she said, "Hey, Miss G, is there a motion we can file to find out what made the honorable judge determine the children were in a substantial danger in the home?" She added, "Or is there a letter we can write to her, the honorable judge, personally to find out what her feelings were at the time for chooses out of home care for the children?" I can answer that.
Go
My
ahead.
her her feelings was Title IV defunding. That was the judge's feeling, 100%. So I don't know the rest of your question. I'll have Mr. Davis answer that about is there a motion we can file to find out what made the honorable judge determine the children were in substantial danger in the home.
You know, in California,
It
there
is in
and
California.
okay, under the Code of Civil Procedure, you can file a request to ask the judge to write an opinion to back up her decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that can be done in any case. I've seen some authority case law that says that that may not apply to juvenile dependency cases. And I haven't seen it done um, a lot of times in juvenile dependency cases, at least by me or my office. One of the reasons is if a judge rules against you and you plan on taking an appeal, and then you ask the judge to put it in writing and give you all the reasons, you know, any weaknesses in the case or the decision will
Mm-hmm.
go away for the appeal if the judge puts it in writing. You know, let's face it. Um, Judges are judges; they're smart people, and just because you know they're ruling against you doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing legally. And if you're trying to win an appeal, you may not want to know all the reasons in writing. You want to leave it ambiguous so you can go to the Court of Appeal and argue it.
You know,
Hold on a second. I want to read this one right here. Maria is a member of our YouTube channel. Maria, my kids were removed from my care even though I took the right steps to remove my partner from the home for
mhm,
domestic abuse.
mhm.
I gave my public defender a package of evidence. My public defender said she couldn't use the evidence I provided. Also, at the first hearing, the father agreed that my children should stay with me. Okay, Maria, I can only surmise that you didn't get your kids back.
Mm-mm. And I
Maybe.
spoke to her, the evidence she's referring to, I saw it myself. So I know exactly what she's saying, but she's not going to open up on the live feed, but stream. But me and her are talking tomorrow, God willing.
Okay.
Um, she she's thinking very, very highly to hire us to help her with this matter. And all I can tell you, Mr. Davis, is this is an excellent case.
Okay. She also goes on to say at our second hearing, they said it was premature to release my kids to me without a reason.
Mhm.
Okay.
That makes no sense, as
Right.
usual.
That's not the law, actually. But
It's not the law, but she thought it was. That's why when she called me, she's like, "Miss G, that's what I was told." But the thing about it is, like I said, they want to destroy the mother. You guys have to understand they want to destroy the mother so that way they have better chances. I'll give you a perfect example. A hysterical woman right in front of you, a man right next to her. She's reacting to him, right? So, but he'll point the finger and say she's crazy, correct? That's exactly how the social workers do it. Do you get it now? They drive the mother so insane and then point the finger on her at her and say she's crazy. That's why I tell you guys stay calm, you know, and it's very hard to do so sometimes, but you have to remain calm.
okay, Christy says they accused me of testing positive for cocaine. The
Mhm.
labs were subpoenaed. There was never a positive test for cocaine. They are trying to lie about everything to keep my 1 and 3 year old from me.
1 and 3 years old. 1 and 3.
Filed
That's
with the
perfect
Inspector
age.
General's office,
Hmm.
and Oh, I thought she had a question. If she's in California, she and her attorney need to be going to court with this evidence.
I think she is in California, Christy, if I'm not mistaken. I think she is in California. I'm not going to mention the county,
Okay.
but I believe she is. But there, the only thing I need to find out, and I need to do my own research on, is if they have like a quarter to me, a quarter, like, like police officers have to give so much tickets before the 23rd of the month. I want to know if CPS has the same thing, because when I found out that the social workers are taking, or they're getting rather, incentives, bonuses on their yearly pay, meaning their bonuses is so great that a social worker can make $187,000 to 197,000 or $198,000 a year, and most of that is bonuses, quota. Thank you, Charlotte. So yeah, so I need to make sure that I want to see, because I feel like this week alone, just from the beginning of the year, I have received more calls about child protective services stealing their children 4 days before the holiday. It's crazy.
I was going to say the same thing. I never mentioned it to you, but I mean, people are calling me from all over like there's some kind of epidemic going on of
Mhm,
CPS stealing children.
mhm.
And we're just one office. Everyone doesn't know what we do or find us.
No,
But statistically speaking, I mean, it seems like it's an epidemic of them taking children.
it is. It's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And they're going after good parents. Like I told you guys, they want everyone to think you're bad. You're not a bad parent, but that's how society thinks. Once your children are removed from you, they automatically label you as you're on drugs. But it's not so. So, yes, trafficking, Christy, you're absolutely correct. Epstein, the children, the minor children he was using, they were from DCFS, CPS.
Hey, Maria, keep telling me some information or give me a call tomorrow at the number
She
that
has
is
your number. She has your.
okay.
I gave her your cell number.
Okay. I definitely would like to talk to her. She's a member of our YouTube channel, so I definitely would like to speak with her tomorrow.
Mhm.
Okay.
We're gonna help
Here,
you, Maria.
here's Deidre. I'm losing my 2-year-old to adoption because the foster parents have now had him since he was 1 month old, and they are now attached and won't give me my child back.
Yep.
Is Deirdre in California?
Oh my God. No, she's not.
Because ironically, they can't have their own kids as well. I wonder why, because they are evil people, so cold hearted.
Yep. They're cold-hearted. You're absolutely correct, Deidre. Very cold-hearted. There
And
is no one.
I noticed, Miss G, did you take down all your Christmas decorations?
I did. I just left that light on you know,
Huh.
there. I just like it. That's all. But I didn't really take that one off. I left it on the wall.
Did you just turn everything?
Oh, Deidre, I'm so sorry. Oh no, I didn't turn it. No, I didn't. Deidre, I'm so sorry. She's in Orange County. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So if she's in Orange County, hey, Deidre, you should be calling me so I can talk to you about what to do in these California cases, okay?
I'm sorry, Deidre. I am so sorry, baby.
She said, I just text you tonight. Okay, here's Maria. I'm so grateful. I know you guys can and will help me, and together I hope to see changes in the system that legally, emotionally abuses children and parents. Yep, it's under the color of law, Maria.
Christy said I haven't missed you. Christy, maybe your story is similar to somebody I spoke with already. But if you haven't already had the opportunity to talk, please don't hesitate to call the office and ask to speak with me. Thank you.
Hey, Miss G, I couldn't see that wreath at first because your head is blocking it, but it's very nice. Very nice.
It's been there since before Christmas.
Oh, do you leave
But
it up all year round?
my head, my head blocks it.
Do you leave it up all year round?
No, just this year.
Okay, very good.
It
Very
was hard
good.
to do to put the light around. It took a long time and effort.
Charlotte says she likes the wreath too.
Thank you, Charlotte. Oh
Uh,
yeah, we did talk. I forgot to tell you that too. Deidre, Mr. Davis talked to thousands of people a day. I think it seems like sometimes. So give the man a
what's
slack.
that mean?
Yeah, it's like you know, if he wants you to talk to him again, talk to him again. So
Hey,
appointment.
Georgette,
Mhm,
this is what typically happens. Tonight, I went out to get something to eat from a local fast food restaurant,
mhm,
and somebody called me on my cell phone, and I didn't recognize the number, and I answered it,
mhm.
and it was a woman, and she says her name, Jane Doe, and she says to me, "Do you remember me?"
I love
And
that.
I said,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I remember you.
I,
No.
no, I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't remember you. She goes, "You don't remember we spoke 3 years ago?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't." And she says, "Well, I didn't hire you 3 years ago, and I'm losing my kids now, and I want to hire you." And I asked her, I said, "Well, why didn't you hire me 3 years ago?" She says, "Because I never thought that they would actually take my kids away, and that they were serious about taking my parental rights away."
Hmm.
She said, "I thought you were just trying to scare me."
Hmm. They say that to me.
And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. Says Deidre
So,
says, "I was going to comment that your Christmas tree was gone, and I was going to offer to come decorate for Valentine's Day."
oh, that's my birthday, Deidre. Valentine's Day.
Is it really?
Hmm. They used to call me sweetheart at work. Yeah,
Well,
not
is that
not
is
at
that
your work, but other places.
no?
Yeah,
That's
I
not your
was.
nickname at my office.
No, no, definitely not. It's Miss G or GT. That's it. Yeah, yeah. They used to call me sweetheart. I was born on Valentine's Day.
And then she says, "How could you forget me?"
I can't forget you. I don't know
Okay,
about Mr.
here's
Davis, but I
Timothy.
can't
Timothy on
forget you.
YouTube. Hey, Timothy, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube, and do what some of the other folks are doing. Join, become a member. There's
And
a lot
spread
of
the word, please, Tim.
Tim,
Everybody spread the word
if
because we're
you,
trying to expose as much as we can and bring
Tim,
awareness.
Timothy, if you become a member, there's a lot of additional perks you get for being a member of our YouTube channel. But
Hmm.
the social worker stopped my father from being monitored for my visit. I need one for my prescription. I don't understand. Oh, my prescription meds, 2 months in. The social worker said the foster parent can monitor for me. It is my fault. Okay, I'm not sure about that question, Timothy. Can you translate that, GT?
I have to see the whole thing. The social worker stopped my father from being the monitor, I guess, for my visit. I need one for my prescription meds. 2 months, and the social worker said the foster parent can monitor for me. Is it my fault? I have no idea, Tim Matthew, what you're trying to say, my love.
Timothy, try to give us a clarification on that question, and I'll get back to it.
Yeah, please.
Charlotte says, Charlotte's watching us on our YouTube channel. Charlotte, don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Uh, Question: At my 2-6 hearing last month, terminate my rights and ordered a 45-minute video visit within 14 days. That time passed. What do you suggest I do? I feel discarded. Well, Charlotte, I want to keep it real with you.
Hmm.
Um, They have discarded you. And what you need to do is talk to your attorney about a couple of things. Number one, filing an appeal of the termination of your parental rights. And number two, getting your attorney to walk the matter on to get an immediate 45-minute video visit with your children. Okay? But talk to the attorney about filing the appeal. Okay, Deidre says, well, I want to hire you, and Miss Jean knows my obstacle, which is preventing me from doing so. Okay. Christy says, children between the ages of 1 and 3 are at a very detrimental milestone when it comes to their attachment, security, bonding, and the proper love and support that is needed so deeply for babies. Christy, I agree with you.
Yep, I agree 100%.
As the decades go by, we're going to learn how screwed up or how we screwed up generations of children by separating from their parents, thinking that we were doing a good thing, trying to protect kids. This
But
is
how can a demon have feelings?
this is Christy, this is bad all the way around. All the way around, Christy. And let me tell you something, Christy. One of the reasons why I feel so strongly about it, because I grew up without my mother. When I was 3 years old, I lost my mother. I didn't see her again until maybe I was 20 or 21.
You said 21.
Yeah. So growing up without a parent, it's not what you think it is.
It's
There's,
not.
you may be trying to protect that child from the parent, but in fact, it's having a reverse effect. It's having a reverse effect.
Yeah.
It's just like, we smoke cigarettes back into, since the Civil War, I guess.
Hmm.
And then in the 60s and 70s, they find out it causes cancer.
Hmm.
People are dying from smoking cigarettes.
And vape too. Don't think vape is good for you either.
Right.
Yeah, be careful, you guys. I mean, yeah. So just, but again, on that comment you made right now, Davis, they're never gonna realize what they've done
They
because
will. They will.
no.
There'll be social scientists who will write about this in the journals about it. You know, this foster care system replaced something called the orphanage system,
Yeah, the orphanage
which,
system.
which was a huge disaster, right?
Mhm.
But foster care system is not what they thought it was going to be. Now, here's I hate to admit this, but here's the challenge. The challenge is, well, if foster care isn't going to work, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to protect kids?
Mhm.
And my view is that you should be putting, or we should be putting up services, spend all the money up front to keep kids with their families.
Mhm. I know,
That's what
but
I think we do. But we don't do that. Our
no.
society doesn't think like that. If you use drugs or you involved in domestic violence or you committed some type of physical abuse, you need to be punished and you need to lose your kids. That's how people think. That and that whole dynamic, that whole mindset has to change.
Yeah, and I actually have something to add to that point you just made. In Wisconsin, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's another state. A mother beheaded her 9 months old baby because the baby was crying. Beheaded the baby. The neighbors kept, complaining about the mom. CPS received so many reports about the mom, but they turned the other way. So my point is, all these reports of parents who are really bad for their children are left with their children, but they come after the parent who actually is a good person for that child. That part. And then I started adding up everything, and I realized in order for them to get the incentive funding for adoption, they must adopt a healthy child. Nobody wants to adopt a damaged child. No one. You know where they put the damaged children? In a group home with all the drug users. That's where they put damaged children. But the good ones, they want to adopt. So what do they start doing? Brainwashing the child slowly. Your mom didn't show up today because she doesn't want to see you anymore. But we love you. Here we are with you. So guys have to understand it's a strategy they use to get the money from the adoption. Because remember, they make more money from adoption. If you guys done your research, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Follow the money. Deidre, you don't know Miss G's birthday, Mr. Davis? I do now. I didn't know before today. I don't think she knows my birthday.
I do.
Okay. Let's test you. What's my birthday?
June 7th,
No.
July 7th.
See, Deidre? Okay, Deidre also said, she says, maybe Mr. Davis will remember you if you become a member.
July 7th. I was right. July 7th.
Hey, Deidre, don't hate, appreciate, Deidre. Okay, so Christy says, S to become secure with themselves, feel protected, and ultimately grow into mentally stable and secure children than adults that are supposed to be without mental health problems. You know, Christy, I want to tell you something. The fact that I grew up without a mother affected me in so many ways, even to this day. To
Mhm,
this day, and I'm 64 years old.
mhm.
So taking kids away from parents, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea. Timothy says, yeah, it's my fault. She stopped my visits for 2 months. If you're talking about the social worker stopped your visits, don't ever let that happen, folks. Talk to your attorney, get your visits in. It's so, so important, not only for your case, but for your child. Christy says, I grew up without my dad.
I don't know. I'm just old tradition. It's very important to have mom and dad together. Very important. But man, I've noticed in America, divorce is so high. It's like you get married, maybe the max 3 years, and that's it. It's done. Um, wow.
Okay, Deidre says, what prevented you from being with your mom? Okay, that's a very good question. I thought have I ever told you this story, Miss G?
Yeah, your mom, your dad met
Let me
your
tell it.
mom
Let
in
me
the
tell it. Let me tell
Asian.
it.
No, go ahead, tell it.
Deidre, my father was an American soldier stationed in Japan at the end
Mhm,
of the Korean War. He met my mother, and I was the result. After about a year, we moved to Los Angeles. My father stayed in the service and did a lot of traveling. Um, Eventually, my mother and father got divorced when I was about 3 years old. Now, she was a Japanese woman who barely spoke English. And, there was something called Pearl Harbor not too long before that. So when she went to divorce court, my father won custody. And my father's African American. So my mother couldn't even, back in 1961, couldn't even beat a black guy in court. And then, to make matters worse, my grandmother, my father's mother, um, didn't like my mother,
mhm,
and she X'd her out. My father gives me to my grandmother for my grandmother to raise,
mhm.
right? And he did that for many different reasons. But my grandmother kept my mother away, physically kept her away. And growing up without a mother, I mean, it's an interesting, conversation because there were many kids that grew up without a father, but growing up without a mother,
It's worse,
yeah,
Davis.
I mean, what I won't go into all the head trips and everything, but when I turned about 20, 21, my grandfather
Mhm.
came to me and he asked me a question that blew my mind. He says, "Would you like to meet your mother? You know where my mother is?" Yes,
Wow.
I've kept in contact with her all these years. I've told her about all the events, your graduation, your football games, your judo matches, everything, your piano recitals. You didn't know this, but she was at all of them.
Oh my God.
So I went and met her. And I came to find out that I had a brother and a sister, much younger, but I had a brother and a sister. And when I met her and her new family, her husband, my I guess stepdad, explained to me why they didn't come around when I was growing up. And he told me the same thing my grandfather told me. Basically, that my grandmother kept them away.
It's always the grandmother, the father's mother that
So
is so evil. My
I
God.
don't know why, you know. Um, I just don't know why. The only thing I can speculate is that my grandmother was upset that my mother and father got divorced, and she took my father's side, of course. But my father was still in the military doing a lot of traveling, and he literally had women, in every port.
Hmm.
So, I mean, maybe back then in 1961, you weren't supposed to divorce your husband no matter what. I don't know. But don't get me wrong, Deidre. I loved my grandmother. She raised me. She was basically my de facto parent, my mother, and she did her best for me, or what she thought was you know, her best.
I will never understand that how kids still love the abuser. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I would never, if that was my case, I would never forgive my grandmother. I would never forgive
So,
her.
so Deidre, let me tell you something. I'm going to expound on this story a little bit. So, I went to college to be a CPA, a certified public accountant, and I worked for one of the largest accounting firms in the world. And I decided to go to law school to be a tax attorney. Deirdre, a tax attorney. I took every tax law class you could take. Okay. And a funny thing happened. After law school, I was admitted to what was new then, but it's all the rage now, something called an LLM program for
Hmm.
taxation. It's an advanced law degree. All right. And the school didn't get accredited by the ABA, American Bar Association, for that year. It was their first year. And so they didn't open. And so there I was, graduate of law school, tax background, without a job. And, I was married at the time. My ex wife, who's a judge now, commissioner in Los Angeles Superior Court, she's actually a CPS, judge. Um, she told me one day, you got to get a job because I was just, at home laying around, kicking it. She was working. I figured I didn't have to work. I was just going to wait a year and go back to work, or go back to school for the LLM the next year, next September. So she told me I had to get a job. I ended up getting a job at a litigation firm. Litigation. I never thought about doing litigation. And at that firm, I met a guy, and we became very good friends. His name was Michael David Randall, a graduate of the Bolt Hall School of Law, smart as a whip, really, really sharp dude. And he was African American. And we formed a very close relationship at the law firm we were working at. And one day he told me he was leaving the firm and he was going to do something called juvenile dependency law. And I remember asking him, "What's that?" He says, "Well, that's That's where they take kids away from their parents. I said, take kids away from their parents. I don't believe that. That sounds unconstitutional.
Hmm.
How is that possible? Anyway, he went on and he started working, and and I lost contact with him. And one day I see him in the office a few months later, and he's walking down the hallway. And I said, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" And he says, "Oh, nothing," and blah blah blah, and had another kid. And I said, "Well, how's that juvenile law going? Do they really take kids away from parents?" He goes, "Oh, every day." And I just found that almost unbelievable. So I told him, I said, I want to come by the courtroom and I want to see this happen. So it was like a Thursday, and on Monday I called in sick at the law firm, and I went down to the CCB Criminal Courts Building, where in LA County all the juvenile courtrooms used to be. And I sat in his courtroom and I watched case after case. These people, mostly black and brown people at the time, juvenile dependency hadn't crossed over, so to speak, to white folks, like an R&B singer, where the big money is, until several years later. And I was watching this and I was thinking, this is really kind of outrageous. And I went home and I told my then wife, who'd never heard of juvenile dependency either. I said, Steph, there's this weird thing happening in courts downtown. They're taking kids away from parents.
Hmm.
And she was like, "Really? I mean, why? How do they do that?" Anyway, to make a longer story even shorter, I decided to join the panel at the time to fight what I thought was an injustice. And the injustice was people losing their kids over what I viewed as just bullshit. Really. I mean, when I was growing up, if you needed a whipping, you got an ass whipping. And I can tell you right now, if it hadn't been for that, I would have gone the wrong way in life. If my father didn't, give me whippings with a belt.
What?
Oh yeah,
I don't believe in that.
right.
Please don't say that.
I would have gone the wrong way. So I thought this was an injustice. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to quit talking about it and I'm going to do something. So I became a lawyer that represented clients or parents and relatives. Now, remember, my friend Mike is the one that told me about this. And he and I became known around the courthouse as Frick and Frack. And the reason why they called us these names is because we would have trials. We would try anything and everything to try to get these people their kids back. And basically, that's how I got started in doing CPS cases. At some point, I left doing that after at least a decade, maybe a little more. And I was really, disheartened about um, the law in this area and how I felt parents were being, you know, injured in this juvenile dependency process. And I really wasn't going to have anything else to do with it. I went on to do other things. And people kept referring me, the court appointed attorneys kept referring me cases, hard cases. If it was a hard case, they referred to me because they know that I would try it, that I would fight for these people. Years later, I was sitting in my conference room in my office after I had embraced, doing CPS cases for a career. And I had a client who was a therapist. And we started talking about my life and how I got into this. And she goes, "You know why you're doing this type of law, don't you?" And I go, "No, I'm just trying to help some people out." these parents out. And she goes, no, that's not it at all. I go, what do you mean? She says, the reason why you're doing this is because you lost your mother. And you are deep down trying to help people,
Mhm.
parents like your mother, and kids like yourself from going through what you went through.
Mhm.
Kind of blew my mind. But after I thought about it and thought about it, she's right.
Mhm.
I could have made a lot more money doing other things, tax attorney being number one of those things. But I chose to do juvenile dependency and CPS stuff to try to help people.
And I 100% agree on that. I think I tell people a lot that you have an amazing heart when it comes to helping families. And a lot of people don't see that, unfortunately, because they don't listen to you. That's the problem.
And here's the thing. I don't blame them anymore, GT. I don't blame them. And I want to tell you why. People, when they first meet me or talk to me on the phone, they don't know me. I'm just some guy, right? So there's no trust. And it's hard for you, as a stranger, to trust some guy you just met on the internet or called on the phone. So I tell people, advice, and they don't know whether to trust me or not trust me. I think that's just a basic human reaction.
Just pray for discernment. That's all I have to say.
All right. Hey, we've gone over for the evening.
But I want to make a comment. I want to say something to Melanie. Love ya. Loves ya. Um, Honey, when I made that comment about mother-in-laws earlier, that doesn't mean you will be a bad mother or an evil mother-in-law. I'm just saying, in majority of calls I make and from personal experience, mother-in-laws are assholes because they always side with the son, even when they enable the son, even when the son is doing wrong. You might not know me well, Melanie, because I don't remember speaking with you or knowing who you are, but I am very, very, very blunt and I speak my mind. So that doesn't say anything about your character because you have boys. I'm praying that you raise your boys with dignity. Um, that's how it should be. But unfortunately, other mothers don't do that. So that's all I have to say.
Diamond wanted to know one thing uh, about how CVS can, I guess, not do the visit. They just decide that
Yeah,
they're not going to do. They just decide.
they
Is it right?
decide.
Is it right? No, not at all. You got to go to court. But see, here's the thing: in law and in these cases, they'll decide something that they shouldn't have decided, but they figure you're not going to go to court with your lawyer
Mhm.
and do something about it. They're basically daring you. And for the most part, I'd say 85, 90% of people don't do anything about it. You know, it's kind of like that herd victim mentality. We see it all throughout history. It's just what happens with people.
Um, it's actually the reason they do that also, Mr. Davis, not to interrupt you, but like I said earlier, they want to alienate you. You have to understand in order for them to alienate you, they have to remove the children from remembering you. It's they will tell the children that you didn't want to show up. That's what you don't get. They tell your kids you didn't want to show up. And then they turn your kids against you. I've seen it. Believe me. I've seen it. And then the kids get mad at you thinking they say, Mom, don't leave me. Right? And then when they see the kids reacting like this, when they see you after months and months of no visits, then they say, look, the child, she's traumatizing the child. It,
Yeah.
if I'm wrong, tell me. But I know I'm not wrong. I know I'm 100% right. So
All right, Miss G, we have to sign off this evening. We've gone way over time. Time goes fast when you're having fun. Tomorrow, we'll be on tomorrow again at 7 p.m. Are we doing a guest tomorrow, Miss G, or are we having another question and answer?
I don't remember, but Grace is going to be in tomorrow, the producer, and she will tell me.
Okay.
Melanie, oh, okay, since we spoke before, mwah, I'll talk to you later on tonight then.
Okay, folks. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys
Oh,
tomorrow at
look, wait,
7
Diamond.
p.m.
No, you're not wrong. See that? Thank you, Diamond. I know I'm not wrong, baby. See
We'll
you
see you
guys tomorrow.
tomorrow night at 7. Thank you, Miss G. Good night.
Good night.